I'm Ronnie Myers, and this is my poetry presentation. The first poem I'm going to be talking about is Shakespeare's Sonnet 18. This poem is written by William Shakespeare, and it was written approximately during the late 1500s in England, during a time of renewed interest in art and literature. Shakespeare became famous for these poems and stories that he wrote through their representation in the English theater. And here is Shakespeare's Sonnet 18 analyzed. I have highlighted all the poetic elements that is included in this poem. And the theme of this poem is that all good things must come to an end because nothing lasts forever. This poem could be connected to our daily lives even though it was written so long ago because of the timeless message it contains. Every day, things start and end. One example of this is that high school is going to be over for us very soon. This poem reflects its time period by showing how people of this time were focused around the good things and things that made them comfortable, like the summer. Poetic elements from Sonnet 18. A few of the poetic elements that are included in this poem are the metaphor, "Thou art more lovely and more temperate," to show how something is compared to a breezy summer day. And there is some imagery in this poem, like the line, "Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May." And the setting is obviously set on a summer day under a breezy, blazing sun. And the rhyme scheme is simply A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, and G G, which is also known as a Shakespearean sonnet. And there's some inversion used in this poem. An example of this is the sentence, "So long lives this, and this gives life to thee." Now on to Edmund Spenser's Sonnet 30. It was written by Edmund Spenser between 1552 and 1599, and the first thing that Edmund Spenser wrote was the English epic poem called The Faerie Queene, and he did this because he wanted to improve English literature. There wasn't very much literature at that time in English, so he decided that he would be the one to start creating some. And he was also one of the first people to start writing poems during England's art and literature renaissance. Spenser's Sonnet 30 analyzed. Like the other poem, I just highlighted everything that was important in this and everything that contained poetic elements. The theme of this poem is that love is complicated and can be difficult. This poem also has a strong connection to the time period it was written in, because most of the literature at this time was about romance. And the poem could still be connected to our lives today because love is not always easy. Poetry elements from Sonnet 30. A couple of the poetry elements that were in this poem were the simile, the line, "My love is like to ice and I to fire." And there was also some paradox in this poem. An example is the sentence, "That fire, which all things melt, should harden ice." This is a paradox because fire actually melts ice, it doesn't harden it. And the tone of this poem was one of frustration yet hope, because the speaker hopes that his love will someday be returned. And the speaker in this poem is just a hopeless suitor who describes his unreceived love. Finally, we have the poem The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. It was written by Christopher Marlowe between 1564 and 1593, and this was also during the English art and literature renaissance. He actually had a large influence on William Shakespeare before he mysteriously died because the king didn't like him or the queen didn't like him. So, yeah. And he was a playwright just like Shakespeare, and he specialized in tragedies, and this goes along with how he mysteriously died. Some of his last works contained blasphemy that may have been a reason for his death, because he was apparently not fond of the queen, so she might have just decided to kill him. And here is the poem analyzed, and like in the other poems, I highlighted important poetic elements. The theme of this poem is that giving things a chance, like love, can lead to a better life. The connection between the poem and time period of the poem is that literature from this time mainly focused around love. Like in this poem, other works of literature from this time were about either the struggles or complications of love. The way you could still connect this poem to our lives today is that when you are given an opportunity by someone in today's world, it can still change your life forever. And here are some poetic elements from The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. The rhyme scheme is simply AABB, CCDD, and so on. And the poem takes place in an area where there are lots of mountains, hills, and beautiful terrain. It's just a beautiful area to be in. The purpose of this poem was to describe how the speaker hopes that his love will come live with him, and it has a tone of happiness and hopefulness. The speaker also tries to convince. So the speaker of the poem tries to convince his love to come live with him in a hopeful way. And there's also some repetition in this poem because the phrase, "come live with me and be my love," is repeated multiple times throughout the poem to reinforce that he really wants his love to come live with him. And that's the end.